If you'd like to get the dealer's cost for your next new vehicle, any reduced interest rates or rebates, click on the Car Cost Canada link in the description below. Welcome to wintry Canada for the launch of the all-new Honda Passport. We're in Quebec for this new two-row, five-passenger utility vehicle. And Honda is kicking it old school with a midsize SUV. When midsize SUVs took off the craze in the 90s and the early 2000s, they were all pretty much two-row, five-passenger utilities. Think about the Pathfinder, the Ford Explorer, vehicles like that. And over the years, they've expanded to include 3 rows of seats. Now, most vehicles are sold that way. So Honda's going back to the way it was, bringing out a V6 powered vehicle for those that don't need 7 passengers and 3 rows. And to differentiate this vehicle in the marketplace, they've given it a unique kind of rugged look. So I want to talk a little bit about this before we go for a drive to kind of explain what they've done here. This vehicle is based on the same platform as Pilot and Ridgeline. The wheelbase is exactly the same. What they do with that platform, they put different suspension on for a pickup truck, of course. They put a different top hat on top to make a Pilot, and they've done the same thing with this vehicle. It's 6 inches shorter than the Pilot, so you lose some space behind the second row of seats, but they've also bolted on a more aggressive suspension, give it a slight lift for the capability to do some light off-roading. So the Pilot's the family vehicle if you need to move kids around. CR-V is still the sensible choice, and this fits in the middle for those that don't need the third row and want to drive something just a little bit different. What are the main competitors to this? There's very few. You have Edge from Ford, you have Murano from Nissan, and probably the closest direct competitor is going to be Grand Cherokee. And it has a little bit of that Jeep vibe. With 20-inch standard wheels, better approach and departure angles in the front and the back. The cladding that's built on top of this body gives it that rugged go-anywhere attitude, even though many people are never going to test its off-road prowess. So I love the fact that Honda's kind of kicking it old school, bringing back the size of vehicle that helped start the whole SUV craze years ago. So we'll get inside and find out if maybe a Passport's right for you. So the Passport comes with 3 trims. There's the Sport, the EXL, L stands for leather, and then the top touring model. Now even the base comes fairly nicely equipped on the outside. You get large 20-inch wheels even on the base. Actually, all of them get 20-inch wheels. The only difference is if you get the touring, the wheels are a little bit wider and you get a different look. Now, all the vehicles that we're looking at today have the black wheels, which certainly make it look good, but are prone to scratches. There are other wheels available, like a gray wheel that's available on the middle trim, something to consider. So the attitude of this Passport is to have it look more off-road ready, even though somebody that's buying this might never utilize any of that off-road capability. At least it has the rugged look. I still think there's an opportunity for them to come out with a vehicle that has, more mainstream looks to it, with a bit more chrome than shown here. There is no chrome. All the windows are surrounded in black. You get these skid plates front and back that are black. So it's this kind of monochromatic look that they're going for. But you know what? Honda's going to do well with this product because people, even though they might never use any capability, they like to be seen in a vehicle that could do something. So what have they basically done here? As I mentioned, the wheelbase is exactly the same as the Pilot. It's exactly the same as the Ridgeline. They've shortened it by 6 inches to get better approach and departure angles if you do want to go off-road. The suspension is ever so slightly taller. You get 205 millimeters of ground clearance, and you get a different suspension. You get amplitude shock absorbers. This is not an active system. These are passive shocks that have 2 different chambers. Depending on whether you're driving on rough roads or smooth roads, it selects between the 2 automatically. And you can tell the difference really back to back from the Pilot. It's great what they did is when they brought us here to the hotel in Quebec, we drove the Honda Pilot. So get a couple hours behind the wheel of that, and now today getting behind the wheel of the Passport, and there is a noticeable difference. First of all, you're driving with 20-inch wheels and tires. Then you've got this slightly more aggressive suspension setup. It makes this Passport feel a little bit sportier and nimbler, and it is shorter, so that will appeal to a certain buyer. Maybe that sort of minivan-like ride of the Pilot isn't for everybody. This is going to be for somebody that wants to have a little bit more dialed-in feel behind the wheel, and it does definitely have that. So where did they shave the 6 inches off? Basically from the rear seats back. They took length off where the Pilot would be, but it doesn't really sacrifice any cargo space because, of course, you don't have that third row. So the cargo space is very useful. You lift up the floor, there's a big bin in the back. That is great for hiding things away, and you see the spare tire is stuffed away in the corner. The back seat and the front seats and the rest of the cabin are exactly the same as Ridgeline and Pilot, and that's a roomy place to spend time. You get a perfectly flat floor, easy for kids to tumble in and out of. You get bench seats in the back that fold for even more cargo space. And when you move forward, what you're looking at really here is the updated 2019 Pilot interior. And the big change for Pilot for 2019 is in this Passport as well, and that is the head unit has a volume knob. Thank you, Honda. We've complained over the years, and Honda has listened and put the volume knob back in to more and more of their products. So it's an 8-inch unit, standard Android and Apple, so that's good news. If you want inboard navigation, you have to get the Touring model here. There's also the new instrument cluster behind the steering wheel, which is a 7-inch digital readout in the center with 2 analog gauges on either side. So the base unit, you get cloth seats that are heated in the front. The good news is a heated steering wheel is standard on every trim. If you want heated rear seats, you need to go to the middle EXL trim, which adds leather seats. And that's also where the power tailgate comes in. So the base model doesn't have available heated rear seats, doesn't have sat radio, it doesn't have the power tailgate, and you can see Honda really wants people to stretch for that middle trim to get those features. When you get this top Touring, you add in ventilated seats, you get leather, of course, heated rear seats, onboard navigation, and the headlamps are slightly different. So every Passport comes with LED low beams and halogen high beams, except for the Touring. It gets LED for both low and high beam. All of the other lights on the outside are all LEDs. The other thing the Touring model gets is the wireless charging pad that's in the middle of the center console. The other thing about this Passport is it comes with a 5,000-pound towing capacity if you get the dealer installed towing package. What does that give you? It gives you the receiving hitch at the back, also adds an oil cooler for the transmission. That's a dealer install. I don't have the price of that right now, but considering what they're charging for this vehicle, you would think they would include that. And just like the Pilot and just like the Ridgeline, it has the 3.5-liter 6-cylinder engine with 280 horsepower and a 9-speed automatic transmission. And early out of the gate, when I drove the Pilot, I criticized the 9-speed automatic. I didn't feel it drove well at all, but I've driven new products with the 9-speed. I've driven them on the Acura side and here on the Honda side, and they certainly have figured it out. It's much better now. It doesn't feel like it's getting in the way at all. So that's a major accomplishment, to go from something that was so poorly executed out of the gate to the point where you don't even notice it. So well done, Honda. The biggest difference, the ride is slightly sportier, much more taut. You feel the road, and it's the kind of ride that I would actually personally prefer. I also like the size. I don't need a 3-row SUV. I have a similar size SUV to this, and I purposely didn't get a 3-row because all you end up doing is taking other kids to soccer practice. Unlike the United States, all Canadian models come with standard all-wheel drive. The Passport also comes with different terrain settings that change engine management, the transmission, traction and stability control for snow, mud, and sand settings, but it does not adjust the suspension. The Passport is equipped with the standard Honda Sensing full suite of advanced safety features. Blind spot warning and cross-traffic alert, however, are only on the top Touring model. Fuel economy is rated at 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers in the city and 9.8 on the highway. After a day of driving in very cold conditions, we averaged right around 12 liters. Now, this Passport sold with 3 different trim levels. I mentioned that Honda really wants you to buy the middle trim to get all the features that people really want. The base model starts right around $42,000. $46 roughly for the EXL, the one that most people are going to buy, and then the top Touring that we have here is just under $49,000. When you look at it compared to Pilot, it's not a lot cheaper, but it's less expensive than a lot of the Jeeps can be when you equip those out. Good looking rig, like the 20-inch wheels, I like the attitude. I think they could come out with a chrome package for those that want to not have this off-road look, and that might even expand their sales even more. But you know what? This market outside of the Grand Cherokee and the Edge really hasn't been harvested, and I think we're probably going to see more vehicles of this size coming back. If you'd like to get the dealer's cost for your next new vehicle, any reduced interest rates or rebates, click on the Car Cost Canada link in the description below.